Hi folks, welcome to week number 4 of Interpersonal Communications Online for summer of 2019 at Hennepin Technical College. Here we go folks, we are officially halfway through the semester. So if you look where we started back here on actually, we started a little bit earlier than that because we started with our first week was June 3rd through June 9th. And here we are moving in to week number 4, which is June 24th through June 30th. And as you can see, folks, we have week 4, 5, 6, and then week 7 is our last week with our final assignments due on Sunday, July 21st. So we are officially halfway there. I just want to encourage you all, those of you who are rocking good grades, strong grades, to continue to do that good work, continue to get your assignments in on time, and make sure that you are following all of the grading rubrics for the assignments. And those of you maybe who aren't quite where you want to be for your grade, maybe you're not at a 70%, which would be a C. I just want to encourage you folks to hang in there. We are halfway through the semester, but so far we just have about a third of our points in. So even if you're not quite at the grade that you want to be, I want to encourage you to continue to work hard. Don't give up. But I also want to encourage too, if your grades are not where you want to be, the most likely thing that is happening is that you've missed assignments. The number one reason that folks fail my course is because they miss assignments. And in particular, it seems to be those discussion postings. I know that they can be challenging for a lot of folks. A lot of my online students are not super excited about, excuse me, about online postings, but it really gives you an opportunity to interact with your classmates. And because this is interpersonal communications, I think that's an important element of the class, is give you a chance to reflect and apply the information that we are learning in the textbook, and then to at least have an online conversation with some of your classmates about your reflections about what you're learning. So make sure though, again, that you're following the grading rubric for the discussion postings and for your papers, your analysis papers. I do have your perception interview papers graded, and I have comments submitted for you or posted for you, and the vast majority of you did an outstanding job on this assignment. So just make sure that as you are doing the assignments that you are following the grading rubric. And I know if you're already watching this video that you probably are doing it on a weekly basis, but I just want to encourage you to make sure that you continue to watch our videos, because I do go over our grading rubrics. I do go over each one of the assignments, and so it's really important that you take the time to watch their videos, simply because I think it really makes a difference in your overall grade. So hang in there, keep working hard. We are kind of going into a challenging time here with week number 4 and week number 5, simply because we have the 4th of July holiday in there. And I know for a lot of you that means that maybe you spend time at the lake or at your cabin or out of town, or just spending more time with friends and family. And so I know it does get a little trickier to stay on track with assignments. I really want to encourage you to work ahead. Again, everything is open in our class. Our quizzes are open. All of the assignment descriptions, the assignment Dropbox, the discussion postings, everything is open, so you certainly can work ahead, and that's really what I would encourage you to do. Summers get crazy, and they're fun crazy, right? There's a lot of extra social activities, there are a lot of other things going on, so I really want to encourage you to be working at least a week ahead. That way, if something comes up and you do get a last minute opportunity to go up to the lake or to someone's cabin, that you can do that knowing that you're a week ahead in your work. It also just makes the summer a lot less stressful, and it makes summer courses a lot less stressful if you're working ahead. So as we look at week number 4, June 24th through June 30th, we are reading chapter 7 and chapter 8. Chapter 7 is a great chapter. It talks about emotions, and we don't spend a whole lot of time in other courses talking about emotions. How are emotions expressed? How do we react to others? But it's a great chapter to look at. I also would encourage you, and I'll show you this in just a minute on our course homepage, to look at and explore this idea of emotional intelligence. One of the things that we know about emotional intelligence is it's, for most folks, it's the most important, it's a more important element than IQ. Remembering that IQ is your intelligence quotient, and most of us are born with an IQ that doesn't change a whole lot as we move through our adult. If you watched the Amy Cuddy video, you hear her talk about a little bit about her story, and she talks about being in a very severe car accident and having a brain injury, and the fact that she moved down 2 standard deviations for IQ, which is huge. So really, besides what like Amy Cuddy experienced, you know, traumatic brain injury, your IQ is pretty much set for life. But here's the cool thing: EQ, emotional quotient, is much more important. There are study after study that shows that EQ is a bigger predictor of income and success and healthy relationships. And the idea that EQ is not only a bigger contributor to those things, but that EQ is under your control. Again, IQ you can't do much to change, but EQ you can work on and change and be aware of, and it can be kind of an ongoing process for you. So I encourage you to do a little bit of research. If you've never heard of EQ, do a little bit of research. I do have a link on our course homepage, just a really short informational introduction to EQ. This summer I am reading a book called EQ Applied, and it is fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's available on Amazon, but it is taking this concept of EQ and then how do you actually apply it? So how do you use it at work? How do you use it at home? How do you use it in relationships? And it really is. So EQ is all about this idea of being aware of the emotions that you're feeling, the ability to express those emotions, your ability to manage your own emotions, choose effective ways to express or share those with others, how to recognize emotions and deal with emotions with others. It's a really fascinating concept. Again, bigger indicator of success than IQ, so it's a pretty important thing to study. It seems natural then that we would go right from emotions to sharing personal information, and I think you'll like this chapter. This is a great chapter because I think we live in a culture of oversharing, or TMI, too much information. So I think it's really important for you to kind of take a step back, look at how you share information, who you share information with, and I would encourage you to look online and look at, if you do use social media, whether it's Instagram or it's Twitter or it's Facebook, whatever you use, I would encourage you to take a look and see really what are your privacy fences around the personal information that you share. I think our culture tends to lead to sharing too much information, so I think it's really important to be aware, to look at your own sharing of, or disclosure of sharing of personal information, and then kind of set your own privacy fences. So where are your privacy fences with your family? Where are your privacy fences with your friends? Where are your privacy fences on social media? So for example, my privacy fence on Facebook or Instagram is very high. I don't share a whole lot of information. It's a pretty high privacy fence. You'd have to jump pretty high to see over into my personal information on social media. However, with my family, my privacy fence is pretty low, meaning that it's very easy to see into my personal life. I share easily back and forth. It's easy to step over that boundary. Interesting though, my privacy fence with my husband is much, much lower. That's probably, almost non-existent. My privacy fence with my children, who are now young adults, they're 24 and 26, that privacy fence is a little bit higher, simply because there are things that I share with my husband that I don't share with my children. And then, you know, looking at my privacy fence with my close friends, with my friends who are maybe, you know, not close friends, but still, you know, people that I socialize with, and just kind of examining what I'm comfortable sharing, how I share it, that sort of thing. So I think you'll really find some practical information in chapters 7 and 8. So to go along with that, you are going to do your second analysis paper for me, which is the instruction manual. That's due before 11:59 on Sunday, June 30th. Again, just make sure that you are saving it in a PDF file or a Word file. And then quiz 7 and 8, of course, then are due by 11:59 on Sunday the 30th. So I just want to, I'm going to go back and we're going to talk more about the instruction manual and all that, but I just kind of want to peek ahead with you because we are getting into, especially this week, which is the holiday week. Feel free to read ahead. You all seem to be understanding the discussion postings, and the next 2 weeks I purposely don't have any papers due this week. Instead, we just have discussion postings, which are much shorter than your papers. So do feel free to work ahead. But I just want to encourage you to make sure that you're following those grading rubrics for discussion postings. You know, making sure that you are citing with definitions and page numbers. And as you're answering the questions, that you're applying at least 4 text concepts in your responses. And make sure that you're responding to at least 2 classmates, 50 to 75 words each. So pull up that discussion posting rubric again, pull up the sample one, take a look at it. But because they are 15 points each for our discussions, they really do kind of make an impact on your grade. Okay, so I'm going to change our screen and I'm going to go back to what will be our course homepage for week number 4. And again, just a quick infographic about emotional intelligence. Very interesting to look at the stats related to it. And then here is that video I was talking about. It's called What is Emotional Intelligence? It's very short. It's 5 minutes. Daniel Goleman is kind of considered the grandfather of emotional intelligence. He's really the first one that named it emotional intelligence, did research, identified it. So I think you'll find his short little video really interesting. I do have just another short little video here too. It's 4 minutes. It talks about Johari window, which you learn about in chapter 8. It's all about how we, you know, the kind of the quadrants of our self-disclosure, what we share with others, what we don't know but others know about us. So it's fascinating to look at information through kind of that idea of windows and the 4 quadrants. Kind of, I think, an interesting topic too. So looking ahead, we are going to read chapter 7 on emotions, chapter 8 on sharing information, making sure, again, folks, using these PowerPoint slides to take, you know, print them out as handouts, so like 6 slides to a sheet, take notes on them so that you do well on your quizzes, making sure you're using the online resources. The flashcards are awesome to use online, as are the practice quizzes. Again, too, remember my audio, folks. You can have the chapter read to you. This is a great time saver. If you are driving to and from, or you're someplace where you don't have, you know, where you actually can't sit and read, it's really lovely to have that audio piece. And so then here's this instruction manual, and I'm going to click on the description and the grading rubric here. And just talk about this a little bit, just so you can kind of get an understanding. This is probably a little different, unique assignment than you've done in the past. But what I'm asking you to do is write a user manual for you that you would give to somebody who is in a relationship with you. Similar to you know, if you got I got a new blender over the weekend. When I got my new blender, it came with an instruction manual that said, here's how you use it, here's the functions of your, you know, of your new blender, here's how you clean it, here's how you maintain it, here's what you shouldn't do, don't plug it in when it's wet, blah, blah, blah. So it gave me all the information about using this new blender. Well, this is what you are doing, but you are writing the manual for you. So this is kind of an interesting way to let it can be any relational partner. It can be, you know, a best friend, it can be a family member, it can be a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, it could be a roommate, it could be, you know, if you're not comfortable talking about more personal relationships. It could be a coworker. But it should be someone that you are in a relationship with. And so what you're going to do is you're going to write a manual, and you're going to write it right to them as if they just brought home this new thing, which is you. You write it, "You will see me." So if I was writing it to my husband Paul, I would say, "Paul, some of the nonverbal behaviors that you will see me do, some of the verbal behaviors you will." So I write it right to my relational partner. Your final paper should be about 4 to 5 pages in length, double spaced. And again, I noticed some of your perception interview papers got a little on the short side. Do pay attention when I kind of give you a recommended length like that. That's probably what your paper needs to be at that length if you're doing the deep enough analysis. So do shoot for that 4 or 5 pages. Double check for mechanical and grammar errors. Remembering too that the Learning Resource Center on both campuses is open Monday through Thursday. So if you struggle with any grammar or mechanical or spelling, please make sure that you get into the Learning Resource Center and have them help you with that. Now, a little different, well, I guess similar, because for your perception interview paper, you did have to talk about noise and you did have to talk about context. But for this paper, you do need to apply at least one concept from verbal communication, nonverbal communication, listening, and emotion. So as you are writing your analysis, as you are writing your manual, make sure that you are incorporating, applying, and citing our text concepts. So this is more of a technical document, so you will have your manual will have instruction manual for dealing with me as the title. And remember, this is for one relational partner. So write it specifically to one person. Could be a romantic partner, a coworker, a roommate, a friend, an in-law, any of those things. So you're going to write it right to one person, and you will use that person's name in your instructions. So again, if I'm writing this manual for my husband Paul, I would say, "Paul, you will see me do this," or "You will hear me say this." So you will have an introductory paragraph. After your heading, you'll have an introductory paragraph, and you will explain who this manual is designed for. So I would say, "The following manual is designed for my husband Paul. I have been married to Paul for 31 years. I see Paul on a daily basis. I see him before we go to work in the morning. I see him, 3 out of 5 days for lunch in the afternoon, and then I see him each evening. Most of our communication is face-to-face." So just kind of describe your relationship with that person. After that introductory paragraph, you are going to have sections. I want these sections labeled. So I want to see A, what I do. And then underneath that, I'm looking for full paragraphs. Don't give me bullets or fragments, or, I want full sentences. So you will describe what, and you're writing again, what that person will see you do. So this is where you can pull in verbal and nonverbal, which are two of the required areas. So in this section, talk about what you will see. So I might say under this section, I might have a couple of paragraphs that say, "Paul, here are some of the nonverbal behaviors that you will see. When I am particularly happy, you will see me smile a lot. You will hear me sing. You will see me get up in the morning. I have a lot of energy in the morning. That's kind of when my high energy time is. So you'll hear me singing. You'll hear me, whatever." So you're describing what that person will hear you say, see you do. And again, talk about all those verbal and nonverbal concepts that you learned about in those 2 chapters. The next section, again, labeled what I think and feel. This is going to come from the chapter on emotions. So you're going to describe what you're thinking, what's going on underneath the behaviors. What are you thinking about the relationship? How are you feeling about it? How do you disclose those feelings? All of those will come again from one of the required sections, which is emotion. Section C is maintenance recommendations. What do you need that person to do to keep your relationship going well? So in section C, I'd have a paragraph or 2 that talks about What do I need from this particular relational partner? Obviously, I'm writing this to my husband, Paul, so I would say, Paul, one of the things that I need from you is I grew up with a lot of physical touch, hugs, putting a hand on my shoulder. I just grew up in a very touchy-feely family. So one of the things that I need from you is daily touch. And so I would write about that under my maintenance recommendations. Section D is safety recommendations. C was what I recommend you do. D is what I recommend you not do. So what are some of the things that this person needs to know about you that would not go well in a relationship with you? Again, in this section, if I'm writing my manual to my husband, one of the things that I would say, Paul, I recommend that you not yell at me. When people yell or use really loud, aggressive, use a very loud or aggressive voice, I shut down. And so that's one of the things that somebody in a relationship would need to know about me. Section E is warning indicators. If you do some of those things that I talk about in D, what are my red flashing lights, right? So, I told you I got a new blender last weekend. It said, well, if this red light comes on in your blender, then the motor is too hot. Well, what are your warning indicators? What is your red light? Going back to what I said up here, if somebody yells or gets really loud and aggressive during a conversation, I shut down. So that's one of my warning indicators. My kids will tell you that when I get very, very angry, I get really quiet and my speech slows down a lot. And so my kids would say they could always tell when I was really mad because I would get really quiet and I would get really slow with my speech. So that's a warning indicator. My kids knew that if I was, if my speech slowed way down and I got soft, that, wow, watch out, mom's really mad. And so then the natural last section is F, repair procedures. So if you see my warning indicators, if you hear me talking soft and slow, what do I need for you to do to get things back on track? I really value an apology. So one of the things for me that if you've really made me angry or you've hurt my feelings, if you've seen those warning indicators, one of the best ways for me is to say I'm sorry. Gosh, I'm sorry I yelled, or gosh, I'm sorry I disappointed you. For me, that gets the relationship back on track. Now, not everybody, needs an apology. Maybe there are other ways of getting the relationship back on track. So for you, what is your way of getting the relationship back on track? Okay, so looking at our grading rubric, this paper is worth 30 points. Again, I'm looking for you to highlight the course concept, the definition, and page number in some way. So you can make it a different color, you can bold it, you can underline it, just so that it stands out within your manual. You need to have at least 6 communication examples, and these communication examples are of your behavior. So again, what will that person see you say, or hear you say, see you do? What are your emotions? What are your warning indicators? So 6 specific examples from you. And then I want you to analyze those 6 examples using at least 6 concepts from our textbook. Again, making sure that out of that 6, at least 1 comes from these 4 areas. Let's say you have 7, 8, 9 concepts applied. That's fantastic. Just make sure you have 1 from each of those areas. The other concepts can come from anywhere that you think is relevant and that you want to use in your analysis. Again, making sure that those concepts are cited with definitions, page numbers, or chapter section if you're using the online text. And then you need to make sure that your analysis fully demonstrates your understanding and ability to apply the course knowledge. What that means, analysis means that you explain how and why these concepts relate to your communication examples. So don't just say this is a great example of proxemics, right? Proxemics is defined in our book on page blah, 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 as blah, blah, blah. Take it a step further and say this is proxemics because, right? And this is where you really include your own insights and reflections on how and why the text concept relates to the communication example. So there you go, folks. That is what the assignment is all about. Again, I am happy to review your rough draft or take a look at it for you. You do need to make sure that you email it to me before noon on Friday, before it's due on the 30th. I'm happy to take a look and make sure that you're on the right track. And I know I mentioned this in my last video, but just again, there's not a lot of instructors that will look at your rough draft and give you feedback, so please take advantage of that. I am more than happy. I'm not getting a whole lot of you to do that. And then when I go to, for example, so then I go to read your perception papers, and some students have forgotten to analyze noise, or some have left off the section on context, or some students forgot to cite their concepts with definitions and page numbers, and you lose points for that. So I'm happy to take a look and say, oh my gosh, make sure you get noise in there, or make sure that you cite concepts with definitions, or so I'm happy to help you out to make sure that you are on the right track. So there we are, folks. Have a very, very good rest of the semester. I do want to go back here just for a second and just again kind of reiterate, I forgot to do this, just making sure this is an instruction manual, so you don't need to follow, it can actually have sections. You can also include, a lot of times manuals will have visuals, they'll have diagrams, they'll have pictures. Feel free to be creative with this assignment. This is an assignment to have fun with. Yes, I'm looking for you to demonstrate that you understand the text concepts, but also remember that our class is designed to improve your communication. So have fun with it, be creative, make it a fun assignment for yourself. Okay, there we go, folks. We are cruising right along. Please reach out if I can help in any way. Take care.